Coffee.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Video number 2, and I have my wonderful friend Lindsey here.
Hello.
Lindsey and I went to acting school together, and Lindsey is an actress and she lives in New York City. So, Lindsey and I are here to talk about a blog post that I wrote that she really responded to about purity culture. You reached out to me about the blog post before I had really shared it very publicly. I just shared it on Twitter and talked about how you connected with it. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
I put it down. Let's see. Yeah, I remember how you wanted to post this photo of yourself with it like in a t-shirt with your underwear on, and like how paralyzing like the idea of like posting that was. And I really related to that because I feel that the past 5 years of my life have been a huge journey in coming into my own womanhood, femalehood, sexuality, sensuality.
Yeah.
And I definitely grew up being like Catholic family, Catholic background, which, you know, in that modesty is a huge thing.
It's such a big thing. And what I noticed when I was growing up, that translated into my religious life, where I was just supposed to be the good, modest little girl.
Yeah.
And I never was really allowed to grow out of being the little girl.
Right, and it's very hard to kind of release those strains. And I want to say that, like, I'm young, I was a dancer, like, I feel so comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hide it, you know?
And so much of dance is, like, embracing your body and your sensuality, which we'll get to later in the conversation.
Yeah.
Talk about your Instagram and the bravery that it took for you to post.
Oh my gosh, it was
things.
so hard. And it's actually, oh god, it was, I mean, I get paralyzed, not so much anymore, but in the beginning, I got really paralyzed with fear for honestly like posting a photo of me having fun, maybe in like a party setting. I don't have the luxury of being someone who like doesn't give a shit. Like I do want people to like me, like I do want everyone to think well of me. And
when we're growing up, we're taught that that's what makes a good daughter and what makes a good Catholic and what makes a good woman.
mm-hmm.
But depending on how they're taught, we can get a warped perception of what being good looks like, and it can limit our view of...
It stifles our impulses.
Yeah, and it makes us feel guilt. I mean, Catholic guilt is such a real thing in my life every day. Oh my gosh.
And honestly, even friends of mine who are like wildly practicing, like super strict by the book Catholics, I see a deep sense of sadness in their... And it's unacknowledged, but there's a curiosity that I see, and I see it because like they ask me questions about my sense of freedom, and like, I admire you for doing that, and like maybe I wouldn't, but I still love you for it, and I think that that's like beautiful. But I also feel like there's a sense of wilderness or wildness in all of us, and we're human, and God wants us to experience humanity, and our reproductive system is a part of our... It's like we're taught to disassociate from it in everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that, like, honestly, like in connecting with my full body, just in my daily life, I have stronger relationships with everybody that I meet. The lack of sex education that Catholic institutions are willing to go into in it for children is so wildly irresponsible. We talk about like don't have sex before marriage. Also, pornography is bad. Kids are curious, they will find out, and so by like denying us this information, and by also like kids are gonna figure it out. Like adults, like you remember what you were like when you were a kid. You know what you're like now. When people tell you no, you're like, okay, let's figure out how to do it. So you're putting the power of our bodies in the hands of the porn industry, because guess how all the girls in my class, including me, learned about sex? From the boys who showed them the porn. And then like you know, that's just a whole other rabbit hole. And I think that like the result of not being introduced to the nude body and not being introduced to my body is not only it's not a sexual object, like,
Yeah.
but if the first time you're ever exposed to the body is like through porn, because like legitimately no art, like no, you know, that you think that that's what it's all about, and then it gets back on us to like just try to be good little kids and not ask questions. Like,
And personally, I believe that sex is the closest that we get to heaven, because God wants an intimate physical relationship with us, and that's why he made himself real and present in the Eucharist. At least that's the Catholic teaching. I'm not trying to speculate for all Christians. There is so much shame around it because of even the apple, and because of the creation story, and us feeling shame about our naked bodies in that creation story. And that's what we're taught from a really young age, is that that's what we should feel.
yeah.
So in the history of the Bible and the world, when we're starting to be baby making machines at the age of 14,
When they
got
started
their
menstruating.
period. Yeah.
This is not about purity. Every vagina is shaped
But it
different.
is, because purity is related, in the Catholic Church, purity is related to procreation, right?
Mhm.
And our menstrual cycle is related to our ability to procreate.
Oh, right. And when a girl starts menstruating, that's when this needs to be discussed. That's when all this stuff really needs to be discussed, because in having a period, you also start to have ovulation. And ovulation is your DNA wanting to have a child. Like, you can't turn off the deepest parts of your brain. Like, I just think enjoyment and pleasure and beauty, I don't think it's a waste of time. Not just physically, but smelling candles and enjoying looking at pretty things. Like,
And those are God's gift. And I think that there's something really informative about the work that we do as actors and as filmmakers, where we have to connect to ourselves on a deeper level, because we have to be physically and emotionally free to explore these things. And if we're putting limits on what that freedom is because of what we've been taught about sexuality and desire and sensuality, then we're not fully living, and we're not able to fully express ourselves for those roles, for those situations, you know?
yeah.
So I think that it's important, like you said, to be connected to your body and to be connected to your desire, whether you're acting on it or not, to just like be aware of it.
I was just thinking that because, like, I'm not advocating for like wild sex with whoever the hell you want to have sex with.
No, not at all. But just,
because I do think there's a value in being with a partner, or like one partner, like long term, because it is an energetic exchange, and the more people you're doing it with, it is special. Like, it is the most intimate thing on the planet. And like, on the flip side, just like you don't want to disassociate from your sexuality, you don't want to be in that act and like disassociate from the magic that it is.
I agree, absolutely.
I feel like I'm a better person now than I was when I was following all the rules. I mean, like, I might get excommunicated if the Pope ever sees the stuff that I'm into, but
I think the Pope's got bigger fish to fry.
because it's my own relationship with the church that raised me and grew up with me, and I'm in and out, and I'm coming back in, and I'm leaving, and I'm finding what works and doesn't work for me. And I was so wounded by my relationship with God and prayer that sort of, like, I literally like had to stop saying the Our Father and the Hail Mary for like quite a long time, because I was saying those prayers and there was no meditation.
When it's a chore, it's not intentional.
Yeah.
You have to want to have a relationship and to foster that relationship with your Creator.
Right.
That's what I've found in my own personal journey with my faith.
We were raised in a place unwilling to open up this sort of conversation that's so important to have in all of us in our 20s. I think a lot of us have like,
we're searching for something more, and to explain all of this stuff that we were never taught even how to talk about.
Yeah. I really admire your bravery and
I admire your bravery, Lindsey.
thank you. Honestly, this is the conversation around sex.
I mean, we could be here for hours talking about this. It's so important. And
Yeah.
There's so much to unpack.
Oh my gosh. And I think like it's so inspiring for you to kind of really dive into these topics that like I feel like suppressed by right now, and for you to kind of be like, you know what, I want this and this is how I'm gonna go about figuring it out is wildly brave, and it's rocking the boat, but the boat needs to be rocked.
The boat needs to be rocked.
It really, really does. And so I just appreciate you. Make me feel safer in knowing that I do have a bit of an identity with the Catholic faith.
Yeah, I mean, I said this to you when we got coffee, but if you call yourself a Catholic and you were baptized, then you are one, and no one can take that away from you.
Mm-hmm. Especially because if God is love, like, I don't care what anything else says.
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to me, Lindsey. It's been amazing to have you here.
I hope I made sense a little bit.
It made so much sense, but let's give Lindsey a big thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And see you next week, and hopefully with a new friend, or maybe Lindsey again, we'll see.